Are you considering paying someone to manage your law firm's marketing and you want to know if it's the right move? Stay tuned to find out. Hello, I'm John Delancey, founder of White Raven Technology, a bespoke legal marketing agency, and your host for the Legal Marketing Minute, our weekly video blog and podcast devoted to discussing the tips, tricks, and trends that will help your law firm succeed in marketing online. This week, we'll be discussing an overview of how managed law firm marketing works, and some best practices for making your managed marketing experience as profitable and productive as possible. So, why managed marketing? Well, most attorneys are certainly capable of learning what they need to know and taking the time to manage their own marketing, especially in solo or small firms, but it usually doesn't make sense. The problem is that there's a great deal that has to be learned, as I hope we've illustrated in our previous episodes of the Legal Marketing Minute and in our in-depth series on advertising for attorneys. There's a great deal that has to be learned to make use of these tools effectively. And so while there's no doubt in my mind that most attorneys can learn this information, the question is, should you? Should you take that much time and energy to not only learn, but effectively implement these tools and technologies when you could pay someone else to do it, still be extraordinarily profitable, and spend your time and energy serving your clients? So with that in mind, let's talk about the various options that are available to attorneys for managing their marketing through someone else. The first option is to hire an agency, like what we do. An agency is going to be a company with internal staff and potentially some outsourced staff that manages your marketing from a very strategic perspective. They have the big picture in mind when they're considering which options to recommend. They'll work with you to establish the correct strategy and choose the correct tactics to make the most effective use of your marketing dollars. The second option is to hire an in-house team. This would be an internal staff member who is trained and educated to manage digital marketing, and probably one or two other employees who are devoted to implementing different technologies. So somebody devoted to managing your AdWords campaign, someone devoted to managing your content marketing efforts, so and so forth. The third option is to outsource to individual contractors. This is the option I would recommend the least, probably, simply because you're not building a cohesive team or cohesive relationship necessarily in most cases. In most cases, you'd be outsourcing your AdWords management to one person. And that person would do your AdWords just like you hired him to do, but he won't be able to really help you if you want to expand into content marketing and so forth. So between an agency and an in-house team, it really comes down to what you're comfortable with. An agency is generally going to be more cost-effective because you'll get the entire agency's team to work on your marketing for far less than it would cost to hire the relevant experience on an in-house team. But if you really, really like working with someone dedicated to your firm and no one else, and you have control over the relationship, then an in-house team might make sense for you. Now, with those things in mind, let's talk about a few best practices for managed marketing for your law firm. Best practice number one is to interview carefully. And this seems fairly obvious, but you'd be amazed, or at least I am, by how many law firms engage marketers who don't know anything about the legal market. And that's the number one thing you need to be sure of, is that whoever you engage, whether you hire them in-house or you hire an agency, you need to be sure that they understand the legal market. And this includes things like rules of professional conduct concerns, what you can do under Rule 7.2 for advertising, rules for confidentiality, rules for using dramatization in an advertisement, and so forth. But they also need to have some understanding in terms of your practice area. They need to know what it is that you actually do. Now, don't expect them to understand every nuance of being an estate planning attorney or representing personal injury cases, but they should be at least aware of the nature of the clients you see and the best ways to market to those clients. If they can't tell you the difference between marketing to a personal injury client and an estate planning client, they probably don't know enough about the legal market to really be effective for you. Best practice number 2 is don't hire cheap. I know you're going to hate to hear this, but as in all things, you get what you pay for. If you hire someone who is the cheapest guy who calls you, there are people out there who will manage your SEO for $100 a month or your AdWords for $200 a month. But if they're charging that little, they either really and truly don't understand the value of what it is they're doing, or more likely, they don't actually do what they do very well. So you want to invest in someone who understands your business and what you're trying to achieve and has demonstrable experience doing the things that he says he can do. Those people are not going to be cheap. I can assure you that if you engage our marketing services, we are nowhere near the cheapest people on the market. And there's a reason for that. We invest in quality education and training and practice and people to meet the goals that you and your fellow attorneys set for us. That costs money. So don't hire the cheapest guy you can find. And best practice number 3, plan to consult with your marketers, whether this is an in-house team or an agency or outsourcers, at least once a month. You want to use this time to review the progress of your current campaigns, examine any emerging opportunities that might have come up with new technologies or new ideas, and keep up with what your competition is doing. But you also want to make sure as well that you're covering Rule 7.2 concerns or any other rules of professional conduct concerns adequately. So, like in most states, under Rule 7.2, you'll be required to submit to your state bar copies of any advertisements that you're running. Your agency needs to understand this and be prepared to help you meet those obligations. And meeting this at least once a month is a good opportunity to make sure that if they've launched any new ad campaigns, they've provided that material to you so that you can retain it and provide it to your state bar if required. Well, that's going to be all for this week, folks. This was meant to be a very quick overview of how managed marketing for your law firm could work and some best practices for implementing it in your own law firm. If you have any questions or comments, please let us know in the comments here on YouTube or on our blog. We would love to talk about these things with you. And until next time, happy marketing.